Monza should have been a weekend where Yuki Tsunoda silenced his critics. Instead, it became the stage for yet another disappointment. While Max Verstappen celebrated victory, Tsunoda crossed the line a staggering 80 seconds behind, with damage to his car and a tangle with Liam Lawson that left fans and insiders shaking their heads. For a driver fighting to secure his place on the grid, the optics couldn't be worse. Now the Red Bull camp has spoken out, and their words are far from reassuring. Team principal Laurent Mekies hinted that Tsunoda is running out of time, stressing the need for clean samples of race pace. Behind the scenes, whispers are growing louder. Red Bull may already have decided to let him go after 2025. And if that's true, Tsunoda's entire Formula One future could collapse in an instant. If you want to stay ahead of the curve on stories like this, where a driver's career could change forever, make sure to subscribe, because what I'm about to break down is something every F1 fan needs to hear. Let's dive into why this story around Yuki Tsunoda is one of the most dramatic turning points of the 2025 Formula One season, and why it could determine not just his own career, but the shape of Red Bull's future. When Yuki Tsunoda was promoted to the senior Red Bull team back in March, it was seen as a bold experiment. He wasn't brought in with the expectation of beating Max Verstappen, no one realistically could, but he was expected to be solid, consistent, and capable of collecting the points that Red Bull needed in the Constructors' Championship. After all, that's the role every number 2 driver must fulfill in a top team. Bring home steady results, avoid costly mistakes, and ensure the team maximizes its car potential. Yet here we are, 14 races later, and Tsunoda's record is alarmingly poor. 2 ninth-place finishes, 2 10th places, and a sprint result in Miami, that's it. Just 9 points to his name in 14 Grand Prix starts. For context, Verstappen has earned 230 points in the same span, including 3 race wins and a sprint victory. The comparison is brutal. Red Bull expects their second seat to be at least competitive enough to secure double-digit points finishes regularly. Instead, Tsunoda has become the weak link, and the gap is impossible to ignore. This gap isn't just hurting Red Bull's pride, it's hurting their finances. Red Bull's staff bonuses are directly tied to their finishing position in the Constructors' Championship. Right now, they're sitting 4th, a staggering 378 points behind McLaren, and crucially, 41 points behind Ferrari and 21 behind Mercedes. Red Bull themselves have admitted that if Tsunoda had managed even 1/3 of Verstappen's tally, they would currently be second in the standings. That's millions of dollars in potential staff bonuses evaporating because of his underperformance. And in a high-stakes sport like Formula One, money isn't just money, it's resources, morale, and the ability to retain top talent behind the scenes. The Italian Grand Prix at Monza was supposed to be Tsunoda's redemption. With the Red Bull RB21 clearly a top 3 car, expectations were that he would at least finish inside the points even if he couldn't match Verstappen's blistering pace. Instead, the race descended into another nightmare. First came the tangle with Liam Lawson at the Rogia chicane, a clumsy squeeze that left Tsunoda with floor damage. From that moment on, his race was compromised. He limped home to P13 a full 80 seconds behind Verstappen, who cruised to victory. For any driver in the Red Bull seat, being lapped by your own teammate or coming close to it is a humiliation. For Tsunoda, it may have been the final straw. The irony is that Lawson, the very driver Tsunoda replaced, managed to recover from the incident and still show flashes of pace. And adding salt to the wound, rookie Isaac Hadjar started from the pit lane and still managed to score a point. That contrast tells Red Bull everything they need to know. The car is capable of points even when starting from the back, but Tsunoda isn't delivering them. Laurent Mekies, Red Bull's team principal, didn't mince his words either. He pointed out after Monza that Red Bull can't even collect clean samples of data from Tsunoda because his races are consistently messy, stuck in traffic, tangled in battles, or compromised by mistakes. This is crucial because teams rely heavily on comparing both drivers' race stints to evaluate car performance and future development. When one driver is delivering flawless stints at the front and the other is scraping through the midfield chaos, the engineers lose valuable insight. Mekies made it clear. Tsunoda needs to give Red Bull clean, mistake-free races. But the reality is, time is running out for him to prove he can. Behind the scenes, reports suggest that Red Bull may have already decided to let Tsunoda go once his contract expires in December. And if that's true, the bigger question becomes, where does he go next? Unfortunately, the answer doesn't look promising. Alpine's Flavio Briatore has shown no real interest in signing him, dismissing the idea when asked. Mercedes has already committed to George Russell and Andrea Kimi Antonelli for 2026. Ferrari, McLaren, and Aston Martin are locked in. That leaves Tsunoda with virtually no top-tier options, and possibly no options at all. The only faint glimmer of hope could be Alpine, depending on whether Franco Colapinto is retained. But even that feels like a long shot. Alpine is in its own rebuilding phase and may prefer to gamble on younger talent rather than a driver whose F1 career is built on flashes of speed but riddled with inconsistency. So what does this mean for Tsunoda's long-term prospects? If Red Bull cuts him loose, his path back into F1 becomes extremely difficult. Unlike someone like Daniel Ricciardo, who carried years of proven success, Tsunoda's CV won't make team bosses fight to sign him. That could leave him chasing opportunities in endurance racing, Formula E, or perhaps a reserve driver role. But as of now, nothing in F1 looks secure. The frustration isn't just among the teams either. Former F1 driver Timo Glock summed it up bluntly after Monza. Yuki Tsunoda was sent home with a slap in the face. Verstappen almost lapped him. Nothing worked, and that's not a good impression to leave. Glock even questioned why Red Bull wouldn't just replace him, pointing out that other young drivers like Isaac Hadjar are waiting in the wings. Hadjar, in fact, is the most likely candidate to take Tsunoda's seat. His gritty point-scoring performance in Monza, despite starting from the pit lane, showed exactly the resilience and determination Red Bull craves. For a team that prides itself on finding young stars and giving them a chance, Hadjar looks like the next natural step. If he continues to impress, Tsunoda's fate may already be sealed. It's a cruel irony. Tsunoda is a fan favorite, known for his fiery radio messages and no-nonsense personality. He's also been the flag bearer for Japanese motorsport in Formula One, inspiring a new generation of fans back home. But popularity doesn't score constructors' points, and charisma doesn't win contracts. In F1, results are the only currency that matters. And right now, Tsunoda doesn't have enough of them. The bigger picture here is what Red Bull themselves want for the future. With Max Verstappen locked in as the team's superstar, they need a reliable second driver who can consistently bring home results without drama. History has shown that Red Bull has no hesitation in making brutal mid-season changes if they feel someone isn't performing. Just ask Daniil Kvyat, Pierre Gasly, or even Sergio Perez, who all felt the sting of Red Bull's ruthless decision-making. For Tsunoda, the challenge is simple but unforgiving. He must deliver points consistently and immediately. Every race from now until December will be treated like an audition, not just for Red Bull, but for his entire Formula One career. And if he fails, Monza 2025 may be remembered not as just another disappointing weekend, but as the race that marked the beginning of the end. So, here's the big question. Do you think Yuki Tsunoda deserves more time to prove himself, or has Red Bull already seen enough to cut ties? Let me know in the comments, because this decision could shape not only Tsunoda's future, but the entire driver market leading into 2026.